two presentations this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. McLaughlin. We're delighted to see you, see our students here performing for us, and look forward to the art presentation as well.
Thank you. Yes, we have, again, our arts on display here in Rockaway Township. We're so proud to share the talents and skills of our students. And so tonight we have with us our Stony Brook students, our musicians from Stony Brook, under the direction of Mr. Kirby Jacobson. So we're going to turn it over to you, and then we will then pass it on to our art presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Excited to be here again to perform for you. Actually, I'm excited. I have to pay them to. I have to pay them to smile, pay them to learn them. They are so psyched to be here. We're going to do three selections. The first is entitled Minuet by Johann Sebastian. And the second two are more student compositions. The first one is entitled Shooting Star, written by Alexis Salz. And then another one called Starry Night. They love the sky, obviously. Everything's under stars. Starry Night, written by Ava John, or alto saxophone. Good, thank you.
I thought you were at the mall being watched.
Stony Brook, wonderful job, guys. Thank you for being with us tonight. We have such wonderful talent in our school district, and I think that certainly we can be proud not only of the musical proficiency that our students possess, but the poise of their performance. This is an intense group to present in front of us in small quarters, and you can see none of them were rattled. So we're very, very proud of their accomplishments and the work that's being done. We're also very proud of the work that's being done and the artistic accomplishments of our students. And we'd ask at this time, Ms. Allen, if she'd like to say a few words in regard to what's in front of you tonight.
Hi.
The microphone's right here.
Oh, no, I'm good. Hi. Hi, I just wanted to take the opportunity while the community is here to showcase a little bit of the students' work that we're so proud that they put their heart and soul into every day here at Copeland and all the elementary schools. I'm just going to show you a couple minutes. Most of you probably saw it while you were sitting here. We're hoping it goes Twitter, but on Twitter by Friday or by Monday, so you guys can all check it out on that as well. Thank you so much.
that the public is aware, the art that you just viewed is representative of all of our students' products K to 8. The artifacts that are here on the side are all created by our Copeland Middle School students. So thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Good evening again. Before I open it up for public discussion, I'd like the opportunity to read a letter that will be sent to our Rockaway Township School District community tomorrow and be posted on our website as well. And after that, I wanted to just clarify a few comments and questions that were stated at last meeting 2 weeks ago. First, the letter. Dear Rockaway Township administrators, teachers, staff, and community members, with the recent unexpected resignation of our superintendent, the Board of Education has made the hiring of a new superintendent who supports and is committed to our district's vision and goals one of our top priorities. To that end, a rigorous yet achievable timeline has been established. Please understand that as the process unfolds, this plan may need to be adjusted. The position has already been advertised in the Star Ledger and on several professional organization websites with a closing date of April 8th. On April 9th, the board will meet to review and select candidates who will be initially interviewed. 2 rounds of interviews will then take place during the remaining weeks of April. On May 8th, the finalists will visit our district, meeting with various in-district stakeholders in the afternoon. The day will culminate with an opportunity for the community members to meet them and ask questions beginning at 7 p.m. More details will be forthcoming as the day nears. It is our goal to appoint a new superintendent at our May 22nd meeting. We will continue to keep you informed as to where we are in the process. Once again, thank you for your support and confidence in this most important endeavor. Sincerely, Susan Sally, President for the Rockaway Township Board of Education. So this will be going out tomorrow as well as be posted on the website. As to some of the questions and concerns that surfaced 2 weeks ago and have surfaced on social media, one comment was, we're not paying the superintendent enough, and that's why we can't keep a superintendent in this district. Unfortunately, the amount we can pay a superintendent is capped by the state of New Jersey. It's based on the size of your district, meaning student enrollment. Whether or not you have a high school is also considered. Our district falls within the cap. The cap for a superintendent for our size district, which is 750 to 2,999 students, is $169,689. A district our size can also add to that, the exact amount, $5,000 if it is a K-12 district, meaning that it has a high school. When you go above 2,999, as some neighboring districts are, the cap imposed by the state of New Jersey is $191,584, with an additional $5,000 if it's a K-12 district. So so to those people who were concerned that we're not paying enough, we're paying as much as we possibly can. And I wanted to clear that up. The second comment made at the meeting 2 weeks ago was, why in a contract would you allow a superintendent to break that contract? Well, standard contracts in the world of education either have a 30, 60, or 90-day clause where the superintendent is required to notify the board to break the contract. The board, on the other hand, adheres to the 3-year, 4-year, or 5-year contract. It does not have an option, unless it's for moral reasons, to break that contract. So we follow standard protocol in the world of education. It's the expectation by superintendents that there will be a severance clause in there on their part. So I wanted to clear that up. With that, I'd like the opportunity to open up to the public for discussion. Before we begin, I won't hold you to this, but a show of hands of how many people wish to speak this evening, just so I have an idea. Okay, thank you. There's also public discussion at the end of the meeting as well. During the course of the board meeting, the Rockaway Township Board of Education offers members of the public an opportunity to address issues regarding the operation of the Rockaway Township Public Schools. The board reminds those individuals who take this opportunity to identify themselves by name and address and to limit their comments to items listed on the agenda and/or items directly related to the operation of the school district. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in the comments, and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. May I have a motion, please, to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Shields, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. Anyone like to step forth? Please do so. We're a very friendly group, so come on up. Okay.
I'm in the first row.
There you go. So if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Patrick Dio, 11 Valley Road. At the Rockaway Township Council at their last meeting approved an agreement with the Township Board of Education to provide for a police officer at the Copeland School. There were quite a few comments made at the Township Council meeting, myself included, about security at the other schools. We have 5 other schools. And so my question to the board is, what are the plans to provide police officers at the 5 other schools, particularly since I think you're all aware that the New Jersey School Board Association came out with a report about a year and a half ago, I guess, that supported the use of Class 3 security officers, police officers, who get the same type of training as a Class 5, and that they're allowed to have firearms in possession while they're on the ground, and they can have all the authorities of a Class 5 officer. So my question, what are the plans for the other 5 school districts?
Thank you. I'm going to yield to Dr. McLaughlin.
Thank you.
I do have one other comment if I have time.
I don't have a gavel and I don't keep a clock, so yes, you can.
The other comment that I have has to do with school buses. You know from my address, I daily go by the school bus garage, and I see many, many, many school buses in that parking lot there. And then at school time, I see many, many school buses coming out of the parking area, but then I see many, many school buses just parked there. As a matter of fact, there probably is at least a half a dozen school buses that I have observed have not moved in months. So what is the school board doing about school buses that aren't being used? And are they being sold so we can provide some additional revenue to cut down on the school taxes? And so that's my second question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So first, thank you for the question and for the concern. As I mentioned to the town council when we addressed the idea of the shared service agreement, our first priority was to have a school resource officer placed here at Copeland School, and that we're very grateful for the support of the administration and council of the township for engaging in that, and that agreement has been approved, and we anticipate in a matter of weeks that we will have a long-awaited school resource officer beginning here at Copeland. Additionally, as I mentioned at that council meeting, the next steps involved Class 3 officers at our elementary schools. And as I indicated in my letter to the community just a couple of days ago, discussions are underway to fund from our piece salaries of Class 3 officers so that we would be able for the 1920 school year to have a Class 3 officer at each of our elementary schools. Certainly that's a great combination because the school resource officer, the active non-retired officer has a certain flexibility and greater parameters that's afforded to that individual than the Class 3 officers, and then the Class 3 officers can fulfill a vital function at our elementary schools. They're also limited in terms of their hours, so we have greater flexibility with the SRO here at Copeland, where there is more likelihood of students remaining after hours and things happening off premises that would allow the SRO that flexibility. So we are engaging, and we have talks scheduled actually this week at the municipal level to do that next phase of Class 3 officers, and we are prepared to fund those salaries, and of course there would be a commitment from the township because the Class 3 officers do report to the Chief of Police. They are police officers in a very genuine way. They're equipped, they're trained, they're uniformed, and they're provided with resources from the police department. So that would be a second shared agreement once we've worked out all the details, but we're very optimistic on that occurring. So I do want the community to know as soon as we have more to share on that, we will, but we are enthusiastic about that. In regard to the buses, we have a fairly large bus fleet of over 50 vehicles. We transport, as you know, in a 45-mile radius, plus we provide transportation to a number, and you'll see all the different transportation agreements with other entities that we have listed on tonight's agenda, because one of the things that our transportation department allows us to do is not only transport our own students, but also generate some revenue to offset our expenses by transportation arrangements and also maintenance arrangements with other districts, private schools, and other entities. What we do have to have, as with any fleet, are backup vehicles. On any given day, you can have a bus that is not able to go out in its route. You need to have a backup vehicle that's ready to go because you can't have students waiting for a bus to complete its route and then do a second ride around. So we do have to keep a cadre of vehicles that are maintained and ready to go in the event, and we do have, even our very newest vehicles that we bought this year had to get some immediate servicing, so sometimes that happens. So that's the reason why you may see some vehicles remain stationary in the depot, but certainly we're very proud of the efficiency of our transportation. As a matter of fact, we have to prove to the county each and every year that we are meeting a transportation efficiency standard, so which is a pretty rigorous one by the state of New Jersey. So we do that, and actually we're very proud of the fact that we're not only able to do our own transportation here in the district, but also accomplish these other avenues, which again offset our expenses.
Anyone else? Please. It's okay, we're ready.
Christy Pudilaru, 562 Mount Hope Road. I have a couple things to go over well, from myself, and then also as president of the Dwyer PTA, I've also collected some concerns that our parents had. So I want to kind of go over a couple. The first being, during the summer we had spoken about the YMCA aftercare program and the problems we had there. We continue to have problems, and now it's gotten to a point where the director is non-responsive. And with that being said, you know, the discussion during the summer was that this was going to be something that we're going to look at the contracts again for aftercare programs and for the YMCA. And so I don't know, given the current circumstances of, you know, your departure, whether or not that's still something that's on the table, because we definitely can't afford to have to my understanding that we're going to be losing our ed techs, and that it's going to become a dual role for our librarians. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate media specialist. And I just wanted to make sure to express the opinion of myself and many of our parents, guardians, PTA members, what have you, that our ed techs that we have now are very near and dear to us. They help our students. Our students love them. They're considered computer teachers. In addition to that, like for instance, when I had the Veterans Day Assembly and everything kind of broke down with the PowerPoint presentation, they were able to jump in on the spot. They didn't have to call help desk and get it up and running. And that's not only for that, but it's also for all the different events we have at Dwyer for parents and for the community. You know, it's a lot going on at Dwyer. I'm sure you probably know. The next is the sign for Dwyer. During the summertime, when I've come down and spoken about the electronic sign that Dwyer was looking for and had been in conversations, I understand, for quite some time. I was told that that's something that would be on the list, but then I came to find out that now we've been kind of replaced in line by Birchwood, which is all well and good, but I'd like to understand if that's the truth, and if so, why did that happen, and now when will Dwyer be eligible to get the sign? Because again, we do have a lot of stuff going on at Dwyer as well, you know, cheer practice and basketball and all of that, just like anybody else, and so I think that, you know, that we kind of deserve to have a timeline in place, a realistic one, not kind of get put behind someone else. So the time for hire for the new superintendent, a lot of concerns about not having enough time. I mean, I think, especially given the track record now, quality is something that we really need to look at, and I don't think that we're going to find that within a couple of weeks of just throwing out applications. I personally don't think it's about money. I think it's more to do with quality, integrity, and long-standing want to meet the goals and the mission statement, say, of the Board of Education for Rockaway Township. So a lot of the concern was letting us have more time to really do a lot more searching to allow for talent to come to us, because talent might not be looking for a job. Talent might need some time to have it kind of land in their laps. Next is with regard to CPAC, special education, and this, you forgive me, I'm not well versed in it, but I understand that there was $800 that was budgeted at one point in time for representation by CPAC, which seems to have gone missing. Nobody seems to know where it is or what it's being used for or reallocated to, and that a lot of time is going to be wasted now with a new special education director who has a big learning curve, and that services will be lost. Or time is of the essence, because I'm sure anybody who has a child that has additional services needed knows that you need to get on top of it now, especially as children are developing. They need to have those resources, and parents need to have us as resources, and the program. So, check. I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly, let me begin with the YMCA. We have been in negotiations with the YMCA for a new contract. They are ongoing. As a matter of fact, it's one of the topics that we'll be bringing up soon with the board. However, I do have to note, we addressed the concerns that were expressed at the beginning of the school year by parents, and I can say very honestly and truly, not a single parent has called me since then with a concern that hasn't been addressed. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to rack my brain to think if there have been any concerns relative to the YMCA program that have been brought up, so they have not. That's not saying that there are not concerns, but what I would encourage anyone in our community to do is, if there are issues that surface, whether it's about after-school programs, ed techs, signs, CPAC, please know that our administration is open and eager to engage with you in discussion. We'll meet, we'll talk on the phone, and we'll address those items. Certainly I can speak for both Dr. Janamian and myself in saying that we are always open to such types of inquiries. So I don't, although certainly this is a forum that everyone can and should always feel comfortable coming to, please don't feel you need to wait for this type of forum to get your answers. So the YMCA, if there are concerns out there, we'd like to hear about them, because we have been engaged with them all year long. at all different kinds of level. I'd say at least 3 administrative levels of the YMCA, and so we will certainly address any issues that come up with them. In regard to our ed techs certainly are valuable to us. We are not losing them because they are all certificated, long-standing members of our educational community, so they will all be utilized in a way that they can continue to make valuable contributions to our students. However, ed techs were put in place in a time when educational technology was new to many teachers, and many teachers may not have felt proficient in their ability to integrate technology into their classrooms. I think we have certainly come to a time, especially where we're close to one-to-one correspondence from K to 8 in our district, where our teachers are certainly not only comfortable with technology, but proficient in the use of integrating technology with our children, and we know that the more that is integrated within the actual classroom, the better. So time for pull-out instruction for computer literacy, especially at a K to 5, K to 6 level, has passed. And we, like school districts throughout the state and throughout the nation, are committed to integrating technology in our classrooms. We have had a Google initiative this year that has gone extremely well, where our teachers teach teachers. We do that in a differentiated way, and I think there's been great success and great feedback to that. So we're excited about that. We also have a robust IT department that has ample technicians that can respond to any type of issues in a very, very timely way. And if there's certainly a special event that is occurring in the district, we can have one of our technology individuals there and ready to assist, so that there doesn't have to be a delay in a special event if the technology isn't working well. And those people are true technology technicians. The ed techs, as you've mentioned, are primarily teachers who have been teaching technology but are not trained technicians. So our expectation of them is not to be repair people, but to work with students, which they do very, very well, as you've mentioned. And again, we're anxious to utilize their talents in different ways in the district. As for the sign in Dwyer, the issue with Dwyer is it's on a county road. So we are initiating the process for electronic signs both at Dwyer and at Birchwood. However, we know from history the non-electronic sign at Dwyer, from my understanding, took 3 years to get county approval on. So we will start the permit process for both schools, but we know that because Dwyer's on a county road, it's going to take longer. It's certainly going to take more than this year, so we're not going to budget funds for a sign that we know we are not going to be able to install in the 1920 school year. Birchwood, since it's not on a county road, will be something we expect we can do in this given year. But we're committed to both schools, and that will give all of our schools electronic signage, and we're anxious for that to happen because we know it's another way of outreach to our community. In regard to CPAC, there appears at one time that there may have been a budget, and this goes back several years, to support the activities of CPAC, but I do want to emphasize that CPAC is an independent organization made up of parents that do advise us in regard to directions in special ed, but also provides a forum for parents, as do our PTAs, which are freestanding organizations. In all of our specialized programs, such as our Title I and our Title III, and our IDEA special education, we do support the activities that promote parent involvement, and that will continue. So the messaging for those who were at the meet and greet, I think this came up last evening at the meet and greet with our new director, those will be supported. And I can assure you that that is an area that she's aware of and has been able to communicate to the parents who have brought that up. The leadership of CPAC knows that we are fully supportive of making sure that activities take place. So I don't think that there'll be any problems in that regard. Certainly during this school year where there was no budget, nor was there, I believe, previous couple of years, but there have been no activities that have been requested that have been unable to occur because of any kind of shortage of funds. So I don't anticipate that's an issue, and certainly if there are folks involved who need more clarification on that, both myself, Dr. Tanamian, and our new special ed director, Ms. Dalapaloo, would be happy to meet with any individuals to make sure that that's firmly understood.
Thank you. I'll address your comment regarding the superintendent search. I can assure you that we're taking it extremely seriously. Resumes are just not being thrown at us and we're throwing them up in the air and trying to pick the best 5. We have a very strict timeline, and we feel we can do it. Unfortunately, many of us are experienced in this. I will tell you that we have put aside hours in the month of April, and I'm talking hours and hours and hours, where we'll be conducting interviews during the evenings, and that we will vet the resumes. We know what this community wants from experience, and we live here. We know we are you, and that we will do our due diligence. If, for whatever reason, we feel as a governing body that there isn't a person worthy to lead our district, we're not just going to take second best. I can assure you that. We all have high standards. So please don't feel that because we're doing this in a month and a half, that we're not taking it seriously and that we are going to give away the quality just to get somebody to lead this district. That's not our purpose. That's not how we operate. So I can assure you, you have my honest promise that the people we bring to you, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever we do, because we don't know, it will be who we think has the potential to be a solid leader for this district. So I hope that answers your question. Anyone else?
Tara Lizette, 29 Arlington Drive. I'm here to talk about the attendance policy. I've had several parents come to me regarding the attendance of their children and their frustration with the policy. At one of the February meetings, Dr. McLaughlin, you commented about the proactive examinations of student attendance with the idea of getting ahead of potential class cases of chronic absenteeism. While this is admirable, the change had unintended consequences. Right now, the policy for attendance is 5,200, and it was approved back in May 2015. So it had never been updated, as well as the regulation. The regulation was approved from 2013, and there are still blanks. So I believe there was a sequencing issue as far as any changes that had been made regarding attendance. Again, I understand what the requirement is for the state of New Jersey, but I think that there should have been a policy review, and my recommendation is that there is additional review of the policy for 5,200 as well as regulation. This will allow for the board to review again and approve, and also for parents to provide input. There were 2 issues along with not going through the proper procedural to look at the policy. In the Copeland handbook on page 5, it has a definition of what's excused. In the health services guide, it shows a little bit different. In the health services, it actually states that absences due to illnesses are excused. So this is different. Again, there are conflicts in both the regulation there are conflicts, because right now in the regulation, it still shows that illnesses are excused. And why does this matter? Obviously, parents, again, they've come to me frustrated, and they ask what they can do. Of course, I always encourage them to go through administration, talk to varying groups, to be able to tell their story, give them recommendation, and of course always come to a board meeting if they feel that they're not being heard. While they are being heard, again, there are areas where there are things that are showing in documents that are not consistent. So again, I would recommend that if you can review policy 5200 as well as the regulation 5200, so that board can approve the most recent changes, and also the regulation can be brought up so that parents have as much input as possible. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do would like to emphasize that this year we are undertaking a review of all policies in the 3000, 4000, and 5000 series. So that's been ongoing, and as we have seen at our meetings, we've been dealing with a healthy amount of policy. So certainly this falls into the, not that it would have to fall into the series that we're reviewing, but it does fall into the series. If you do take a look at our policies, just to be open and honest, you'll find others that have blanks. So I don't know how that happened, but we are addressing them as we come across them. I do want to emphasize as well that there have been no changes in regard to official policy of attendance. The word excused has been misleading, because many school districts use the word excused to say that a student isn't truant, versus the terminology from the Department of Education, which has been consistent for many, many years, that says an excused absence is for a religious holiday or for take your child's birthday. Those are the only two true excused, legally excused. And the word legally excused means it's as if the student was not absent. The way that the terminology excused has been used in a practical fashion has been that we understand the student was out for a legitimate reason. So what we've tried to do, and we do have a whole revamp of our handbook, elementary handbook, and Copeland handbooks that are going to come out for the 2019-20 school year. We're avoiding the word excused because it's used in two different ways, the work that we're doing is truly to promote student attendance. We know that when students are in school, as long as they're not sick, it's a good thing, and the more they're in school, we know the more they achieve. We did feel it was important to share that with the public, and that was the reasoning behind my report. But again, I'm going to just harken back to an earlier comment from the public. If parents have concerns, and these are all legitimate concerns, we encourage them to contact us and express those concerns, because I am not receiving calls regarding attendance concerns. That doesn't mean they don't exist, and perhaps parents don't feel comfortable or don't feel that the forum is there, but certainly we are ready, willing, and able to address any issues that parents are frustrated by or need clarification for. That's part of the work that we do. So the messaging that I want to give in my response is, if parents are having these concerns, please reach out to us via email, via phone call, or an office visit. Any one of those ways, we're more than happy to address the issues that come up.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
Sorry. Christy Furilaro, 562 Carmel Road. So just to respond to your response with regard to the sign for Dwyer, I'd like to know if and when we plan on applying for the permit. I mean, I thought that this was kind of, the mission now was to keep kind of parents engaged and kind of work with parents, and we had no idea that this was happening until it kind of just passed through. I don't remember this ever being a topic that we were going to be paused because of the county road issue. really not about, whether or not they are staying or going within their capacity. It's about time. It's all about time. I mean, when you're looking at assemblies, you're looking at half hour here, 20 minutes there, and what's the likelihood that we're actually going to have a technician at each one of those things during the week and at all random times to actually be able to facilitate that. I mean, I think we have to be realistic. And so with having the ed techs in that role, I think it's helpful so that way, the folks that need to teach certain subjects they don't have to worry about having to take on this excess role. Our teachers do not. So I think it's really about that, and I feel kind of like that. My thought or my concern of parents is kind of been reflected. It's really at the end of the day making sure that we have the right people in the right place to be able to do what they need to do to keep our school running. I think we deserve it, and we think that even though our teachers are wonderful when it comes to technology, there are other things that they should be doing, and so they can actually use that help. So I think it's better for them. So that's it. Thank you.
I'll just provide one additional clarification. This is, Dwyer is not on pause. We're moving ahead. For county roads, you need certain permit approvals. So we are putting all of that in place right away. It's not a matter of lobbying for that to happen quicker. It's a process. So we are moving ahead. Permits, our facilities director is moving ahead with the permit pieces for both schools. It is a process that takes time. We know that even if it's expedited and it doesn't take 3 years this time as it did last time, it certainly won't happen in a year. So the budget will be there for the sign in the year that we know that the sign is most likely to occur. And we will provide updates. Our business administrator, Mr. Paulo, can provide updates as that permit process is moving along. I do want to emphasize again that the role of the ed techs are not to be repair people. These are teachers. These are, $100,000, teachers, certificated people who are there to teach kids, not to repair printers, and which is a valuable experience, but also have to indicate that it takes a certain expertise to do that. Our technology increases in sophistication, and although we have teacher-based ed techs in the buildings, our expectation is not for them to have that level of sophisticated knowledge to fix our technology. We have at least 6 people in our technology department who can be dispatched to a school. We don't have assemblies that are occurring each and every day. These are events. Our schools know that they can call on our ed techs, not our ed techs, but our technology technicians to be there. And I have to say that in a district our size, we probably have one of the larger technology departments with that amount of people and the expertise that's there in that department to go out to our buildings. So we're not going to I want to give assurance to the community. We're not going to shortchange our teachers. We're not going to shortchange our students. We're not going to shortchange our parents in regard to technology. And we're going to utilize these valuable teachers who you've mentioned in a fashion that continues to contribute to our students and the educational experience here. So I appreciate the follow-up questions. And again, if you'd like to follow up with me individually, with Dr. Tanamian, with our Director of Technology, with our Business Administrator, or any of the folks who may have contributed to the concerns that you mentioned tonight, we're more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, may I have a motion, please, to close to the public?
So moved.
Mrs.
Second.
Brooks, Mrs. Jericho. Moving on to communications. Has there been any additional communications?
Yes, we received 2 emails. We received one from Mr. Lasardi concerning the budget resolution that is on again this evening to be the revised one, which I will address in my report shortly. And we received one from Ms. Collard, and she was addressing Dwyer electric sign, and she also addressed the ed tech.
Thank you. So the minutes will show that was received. Thank you very much. Moving on to the minutes of March 20th for approval. May I have a motion, please? So moved. Mrs. Smith?
Second.
Mrs. Halport? Any board discussion? not, roll call please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Chirico?
Yes.
Mrs. Helberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes. Moving on to superintendent's report, Dr. McLaughlin.
Thank you. Good evening. This year, our Board of Education adopted the goal to continue the district's focus and the ongoing priority of a safe and secure learning environment that is inclusive of physical security, that supports and promotes the social and emotional well-being of students and resources for staff. And in keeping with this goal, efforts have been ongoing and important accomplishments have occurred. Reports and updates throughout the school year have informed our community of a number of measures that are focused on the goal of school safety, and these are inclusive of camera systems at the Copeland Middle School and at KDM. The installation of these internal and external cameras provides both inside and outside coverage for each and every school in our district. Additionally, the launch of the Stop It application, the implementation of behavioral health services from Rutgers University, and the plans to extend those services in 2019-2020 to our elementary schools, the installation of external bus cameras, and the purchase of Shared 911 are all important endeavors which have been completed this year in keeping with this goal of school safety. As expressed in my letter to the community this week, we are extremely happy and grateful that the Township has engaged with the district in a shared service agreement for a school resource officer at Copeland Middle School. The shared service agreement is in immediate effect, and we expect that the Rockaway Township Police Department will assign an officer in a matter of weeks. The dialogue surrounding the shared service agreement has demonstrated the strong support of a uniform presence in our schools to ensure the safety of our students throughout the district. The administration and the Board of Education is currently planning the next step of having Class 3 officers in each of our elementary schools for the 2019-2020 school year. The school district is examining its budget to fund these positions, and I will continue to update the community on the steps we are taking to meet this commitment for the 2019-2020 school year. We recognize that despite the significant accomplishments that have been noted, our work relative to student safety and security is never completed. Our district will continue to maintain a keen awareness of factors that place our students at risk and seek out the most effective ways to address those areas so that school can always be a place where students experience a bona fide sense of well-being and allow them to develop positive relationships and pursue learning. Last Wednesday evening, Ms. Lewis, Dr. Tanamian, and I met with the parents of the KDM school community to share information relative to the 3-year target support plan. We are appreciative of the many individuals who shared their time, their attention, and their ideas with us that evening. The meeting was live streamed and is available to view on the KDM website, and we look forward to providing additional information on a regular basis to keep the school community aware of completed steps and student progress. On March the 21st, Junior Achievement of New Jersey conducted a first ever Morris Knowles High School Heroes Junior Achievement Day at Dwyer Elementary. Nicole DiFilippo, Mr. McGovern, and Jenny Benak from the Morris Knowles High School coordinated an impactful event for both the high school students and for our Dwyer students. 34 high school heroes were on hand and engaged with all 17 classes from Dwyer. 292 K-5 students learned concepts relating to personal finance, entrepreneurship, and career readiness, preparing them to succeed in a global economy. And that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. McLaughlin? If not, moving on to business administrative report.
Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight 2 of the items on tonight's agenda. First, under the administration section on pages 9 and 10, I would like to call your attention to the 16 agreements we have with local school districts to provide both transportation and maintenance services. Being able to offer this kind of service and having the staff and facilities to manage these agreements is an asset to the Rockaway Township Board of Education. The second item is the revised budget resolution on pages 11 and 12 of the agenda. The items that were originally approved for submission have not changed, but the county has requested that we put in our maximum travel expenditure for the current school year and how much of that has been spent to date. It is a formality that requires another board vote and will then be forwarded to the county office as backup documentation for the budget. Our project schedules are moving along. Master clock installation began today at Stony Brook, and the company will progress one school at a time until all schools are completed. We anticipate that the project will be completed well before the end of this school year. Window replacement at Stony Brook is on schedule to begin April 8th, and weather permitting should be completed by the end of the month. I hope that the telephone project at the central office will be completed by the end of this month. LightPath will have to move the internet rack currently in the back office into the server room, and then the telephones in the building will be cut over. Most of the work is planned for spring break, as the move of the rack will temporarily disrupt internet service. We will keep staff informed of any potential disruptions in service. I would like to thank the IT department for their tenacity in keeping this project moving forward. Lastly, I was asked to provide some information on our solar program. Beginning in December 2011 and ending in 2016, we made one prorated and 5 full lease purchase payments totaling $3.1 million. We began to sell our SRECs on a yearly basis beginning in June of 2013. To date, we have netted $627,945 in sales of the energy credits. We will be selling them again in June of this year. A cost-saving analysis at the beginning of this program comparing the 6-month period of July through December 2012 versus the same 6-month period in 2009 showed a savings of $19,130 in electricity costs at Stony Brook and $58,100 at Copeland. These numbers represented an approximate 65% reduction in energy costs for the 2 buildings. And that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. DiCarlo? If not, curriculum report.
Good evening. Try again. Good evening, Rockaway Township. I'd like to begin my report by acknowledging 3 staff members who spent some time last week revising old materials and creating new resources to support our families with kindergarten students, especially those for whom the very next school year will be their first experience with Rockaway Township schools. Kindergarten teachers Anne Maria Riccio from Stony Brook and Nicole Carzero in the audience from DBO collaborated with Marjorie Henson, an occupational therapist, to update materials and find new resources to support families with this important transition. Once their work is completed, we will create a new tab on our website for families to access this information. For families with an incoming kindergarten student, we will be hosting 2 parent orientations on April 17th. There will be a morning session at 9:30 a.m. and an evening session at 7 p.m., both at Stony Brook. I would also like to congratulate Dominique Brock from Copeland and David Koenig from KDM for earning the distinction of clinical faculty members through our partnership with MSU. These teachers will now qualify to submit an annual grant proposals for additional resources for both their classroom and our district. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Vanessa Waxman and Mandy Thomas for hosting a 3rd grade family coding event at Copeland tomorrow evening. We have close to 30 families registered and signed up, and we truly appreciate how much the community has supported these events over the past several weeks. I am pleased to inform the community a new 3D printer has been installed at Birchwood Elementary School. The printer is operational, and several staff members were trained on how to use the 3D printer this past Monday. This printer was the result of a grant awarded by the Rockaway Township Education Fund. The RTEF has been a wonderful supporter of our district, and I want to thank them again for this grant. The use of 3D printing is something we will be considering when we rewrite our library computer literacy curriculum this spring and summer across our district. Lastly, building off of my last board report, when I discussed data about how our graduates were performing at the high school level specific to AP coursework, I would now like to provide some additional information about the 2018 graduating class and their SAT achievements. We examined data from the 2018 class of graduates, which amounted to 252 students, and we looked at their best results, and in the case of multiple tests with no improvement, the most recent test scores were included in the analysis. The overall participation rates for the class of 2018 was 82%, which is equal and on par with the state participation rate. When comparing Rockaway Township student scores to the state average and college board benchmarks, Rockaway Township students outperform both the college board benchmarks and state averages for both evidence-based reading and writing and math. Also important to note is that the college board benchmarks are associated with a 75% chance of earning at least a C in the first semester of credit-bearing courses. The Rockaway Township School District student average score for the evidence-based reading and writing SAT was 573, compared to the state average of 547 and the college board's benchmark of 480. For math, the Rockaway Township School District student average score was 579, compared to the state average of 547 and college board's benchmark of 530. Overall, the average SAT score for the Rockaway Township School District graduating students from the class of 2018 was 1152. That falls in the middle of the average score for Knowles, which was 1136, and for Hills, which was 1181. Based on SAT scores, this data does seem to suggest, by and large, Rockaway Township School District students are graduating from high school prepared for academic success in college. With that, that completes the written part of my report tonight. I did want to add a few comments. Last evening, I had an opportunity to attend a first of its kind preschool family night that was hosted by DBO and DBO teachers and staff members. And it was a real great success. Great turnouts, and really it aligns to one of the goals our preschool teachers set at the beginning of the year to really better engage with our preschool families and try to get attendance rates up. And to see the amount of families that came out last night and the amount of staff members and teachers that were there was truly inspiring. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Shananian? If not, moving on then to committee reports. Any committee reports?
Tomorrow operations has a committee meeting at 5 p.m. at the board office.
Thank you.
The education committee had to reschedule. We were going to meet Tuesday, but because of the superintendent search, we're changing that meeting to April 30th. Thank you.
And for the policy committee, we do need to set the next date for our policy review. I know that we have a very tight schedule. One thing I would like to put on the agenda for that would be, as we heard from the audience, policy 5200, the review of the regulation. Can't do the 30th because we actually have a meeting that would overlap, board meeting. Oh, sorry, that is the 29th, sorry about that. Woo, I have to look at my notes. I know that has been a tight schedule for you with working with high school children all day, plus sitting through an education committee. Is the 30th possible?
We're meeting there.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if potentially we could move education and policy to a night. The 30th isn't a night that I can attend, so.
How about the 24th?
suggestion, just to speed things up. If you're asking for them to occur on the same night, so perhaps could you generate some dates?
Absolutely.
Send them out to the committee chair, who can then check with their committee and see if they will make this happen.
Especially with our tight schedule as now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? I have one. The Board of Education Negotiations Committee met with the Bus Drivers Association the first evening of contract negotiations. It was a Friday night. We were there for over 5.5 hours. We did make some headway. We have scheduled 2 more additional meetings, one in late April and one in early May, and we look forward to continued discussion with them. Thank you. If there are no other committee reports, we'll move on then. Recommended for board action. The first section is personnel. It begins on page 4. It ends on page 6. There can be no public discussion by law. Board discussion was held during executive session. So may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Cherico. I do have to read one more item in. It would be number 18 on page 6. Still under personnel, number 18 will be reassignment. Approve the voluntary transfer / reassignment of Jennifer Clack from a full-time vice principal at Copeland Middle School to a full-time health physical education teacher at the Copeland Middle School, effective August 28, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, for the 2019-2020 school year. The annual salary will be $82,750, which is master's degree plus 45 on step 20. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Chirico?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on to HIB determination, beginning on page 6, ending on page 7. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Shields? Dr. McLaughlin, do you wish to comment?
Yes, we had one first review this evening in executive session of a HIB that was determined to be a non-HIB determination. That will be voted on at our next meeting.
Correct. So tonight then, we're voting on where it's stated at number 2, correcting a prior board resolution. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Chirico?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to C, education, beginning on page 7, ending on page 8. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Jericho? Any board discussion? If not, I can open to the public for any items under education. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Chirico?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to D, special education, beginning and ending on page 8. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Hellborg? Board discussion. If not, I can open to the public if anyone has a comment under special education. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Chirico?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to E, administration, beginning on page 9, ending on page 10. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Smith. And again, this is where all of our transportation agreements appear. Board discussion.
I actually do have one question about this. Do we have a certain limit on how many agreements we can enter into?
We certainly do have a limit because it's based on the number of buses and the number of drivers we have. So
Mhm.
any anytime somebody requests something, it's looked at by, Joan, the transportation supervisor, and her staff to determine whether or not there's sufficient, personnel to handle the request.
Okay, thank you. Any other board questions or comments?
I would like to just commend the transportation department. Very valuable.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a second on that by all of us. I can open to the public if anyone has a question or comment. If not, roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherico?
Yes.
Mrs. Helberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Saleh?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to finance, beginning on page 11, ending on page 12. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Shields. Mrs. DiCarlo did bring this up in her report, but are any board discussions for Mrs. DiCarlo? If not, I can open to the public. Please. Let me just open to the public. Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Smith, please.
I think I'm at the right spot. Are we talking about the second reading of the resolutions? Is that up for?
Page 11.
The board policies or?
Yeah, board policies.
We're almost there.
Oh, I thought so. Because you said turn page 12, mine is saying page 12.
Okay.
Policy.
The policy is
The
right,
resolution
but
is on both pages.
we'll put you on, just don't go far, okay? We'll bring you right back up, no problem. Okay. Any board discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, I was open to the public. Let me just, then, if it's not about that, let me close to the public.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Brooks, Mrs. Cherico, roll call on finance.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherico?
Yes.
Mrs. Helberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Saleh?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to policy, beginning on page 12, ending on page 13. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Cherico and Mrs. Brooks. Board discussion first?
As the policy chair, on the agenda this evening, we have policy P8462, which is reporting potentially missing or abused children. Came down from the superintendent because it's a CUSAC generated change. There designee has to be on here for making the superintendent the designee for law enforcement.
Okay, so you make him the superintendent or designate?
Yes.
Thank you.
On for a second reading, and if they are approved, they will become policy. P3322, staff members' use of cellular telephones. P3425, work-related disability pay. Policy 3310, academic freedom. Policy 3324, right of privacy, teaching staff members. Policy 3351, healthy workplace environment. Policy 3370, teaching staff member tenure. Policy 3381, protection against retaliation. Policy 3410, compensation. Policy 3420, benefits.
Have there been any changes since the last meeting? No. Any board discussion?
I just wanted to confirm, it was just that one blurb was changed, superintendent.
Now I'm going to make a motion, may I have a motion, please, to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Smith. Please.
Thank you, thank you. I'm referring to policy 3310, academic freedom. Now, when I went on the board site, the policy that was there was dated, I think, 2013, something like that. I couldn't find a copy of the proposal to read. And how do I get a copy of that proposal?
I can answer that question if you'd like.
Yeah.
When you go on our homepage of our website, under Board of Education,
Yes.
there are policies for first read, policies for second read. So that policy, because it was on for the second read, would be there for you to see. Any policy that's going to be discussed, whether it's first or second, is able to be accessed there.
Okay, and so the policies that are for second reading will be voting on next week, next meeting, or going to be voted on today?
It'll be voted on tonight.
Oh, okay, because,
I can tell you what the change was if you'd like to know.
no, that'd be great.
Okay, the academic freedom policy only had one word change. We changed the word the curriculum to the curricula. So we just changed the type, the wording of curriculum, but everything else was left intact. We didn't see anything that needed to be changed from the original 2013 in terms of content at all. So what you saw for 2013 essentially is the same policy, just that one word curriculum is changed to curricula to reflect the plural rather than singular.
Well, when I was reading the policy, I was reading it with a purpose of seeing if the board had a policy that prohibited teachers when they're in front of the students to expounding their political views or their values. And in the policy, as I read it, it gives the teachers the opportunity to expound views, but it doesn't specifically prohibit them from expounding political views. And I've been hearing in the news media that unfortunately that there are some districts, not ours, and that where teachers have been found to be presenting to their students their political views. And I have had that experience in my family, actually. And so I wanted to be assured that our policy that prohibits teachers from presenting their political views and their personal values that might not be the values of the parents or the political views of the parents.
I believe it's not this policy, but I believe that does appear in another policy. And if you would just leave an email address or a phone number, we can get back to you and give you what policy it is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can guarantee you we have a policy on that.
Okay.
Rest assured.
Thank you very much.
You're very
Can
welcome.
I just respond? I believe it is policy 3233, political activities, but we'll confirm via email just to make sure that this includes everything that you're asking about.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Philip Marchard, 2 Road. This is reference P3420, and last week I read the news that the state is considering changes to the benefits policies to try and save money, and I believe teachers, if they make a change, will be included in that. Is the work on the new policy reflecting that or not?
3420.
The benefits.
That's it. Well, as Dr. McLaughlin was looking for that, I can tell you that law always trumps policy. So regardless of what's in our policy, the law supersedes the policy. So that's number one.
Yeah, so I know that the state, they've done a number of adjustments in terms of the state health benefits plan, which we use in our district. Not every district does, but we do utilize the state health benefits plan. So a lot of that has come into effect. The policy itself basically just talks about the fact that people are offering benefit packages. Most of that is typically governed through our collective bargaining agreement, but we do use the state health benefits plan. So anything that you may be reading relative to that plan, which is what the state has control over, would apply to us.
Anyone else on policy? Not, may I have a motion to close to the public, please?
So moved.
Second. Mrs. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Jericho?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Selmy?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to old business. Anyone from the board have old business? Mrs. Brooks.
Old, but it's kind of new. So, we all know picturing and understanding, and I was explaining how it worked, and to see it actually on a school bus was eye-opening in the respect of how it worked. So we were all under the impression it was on a stop arm, correct? Like, I don't know about anyone else, but I pictured it to be on the arm of the stop sign. It is not. It is actual stationary camera on the outside of our bus that is a live stream running, so that it is very, very visible, license plate and all of those things. It is clear that the bus would be stopped. So I feel really, really confident that these cameras are going to be a huge improvement on people passing stopped school buses, because I can guarantee you, I saw it, it's gonna get you. And I was really excited to see it. My bus driver was laughing because I was waving her down, going like this, and she was like, yeah. I know they're in, incognito, kind of roaming the district right now, but just so everyone knows, I know it sounds so silly, but I was really excited to see it and understand how it works. And just so everyone knows, they work and they will catch you.
Thank you.
I also have old business. At the last budget meeting, I had following questions for Ms. DiCarlo, which she so graciously provided me the answers for. I had wondered how are the water fountains being cleaned and what products are being used. And the product used is ES64H. It's considered a green, environmentally friendly product, and it's sprayed on and stays on for 3 minutes, and then it's thoroughly rinsed. I also have the question, how often were they cleaned? And they are done twice daily, once right before lunch and again at the end of the school day. So thank you, Mr. Carlo, for the information.
Thank you. Any new business?
I have more.
So I just I had the opportunity as a parent, a proud parent, to attend Morris, I want to say it's Morris Hills Regional District's Social Studies Olympiad. I would personally like to thank, on behalf of the board as well, Mr. Adams and Mr. Fuchs here at Copeland Middle School, who picked some 8th grade students to participate. It was kind of like a Family Feud-esque history round robin event, and it was Rockaway Township, Rockaway Borough, Denville, and Warren students. So all 8th graders that were picked were going to the regional high school. They were put on teams. One student from each school district was on each team. They did a round robin event. I have to tell you, these kids were amazing. I like to toot our own horn. Our Rockaway Township kids were phenomenal. And to listen to these kids answer these questions about the First Amendment and presidents and wars, it was really very impressive. So I would like to thank Mr. Adams, who's usually here, and Mr. Fuchs for allowing our students the opportunity to go. I know my son was honored. I was super proud just to be a parent and impressed by all of the students and all of the sister districts who send there. And I would like to thank the regional for having that opportunity as well for our kids. It was really, really cool. Thank you.
Mrs. Besson. Oh, Mrs. Halpert.
I attended the All Shook Up play, and I just wanted to thank the administration for extending an invitation to our senior groups in our community. They attended on, I believe it was the 20th, and they got to see the dress rehearsals. And I know my parents were very excited to get their invitation and brought a bunch of their friends, and it was very well received. It was funny because my daughter was in the play, and she said to my mother, she said, you know, these songs are old, you might not know what they are. And my mother just shook her head, and her friends, it was just classic.
Can I just add to that? I neglected to mention this. I did bring it to share with the board. I received a card yesterday. Dear Dr. McLaughlin, on behalf of the Rockaway Township Seniors South, I would like to thank you for inviting us to your dress rehearsal matinee of All Shook Up. We enjoyed watching all your talented students performing songs from our era and putting a smile on our faces. Thank you all for a nice afternoon. Yours truly, Judy.
Thank you. Mrs. Messer.
Wasn't even ready. I had attended 2 New Jersey School Board training since our last board meeting. On Thursday, the 21st, I attended an all-day Are You I Seem Ready Our gracious hosts were the Morris Plains School District. They're doing some very exciting things there. It was funded by ELF New Jersey, which is the Educational Leadership Foundation of New Jersey, in conjunction with the New Jersey School Boards. Found it very interesting. I would love to, Dr. McLaughlin, possibly provide this in PowerPoint. Charlene Peterson, our field services rep, sent it to us, that we could possibly play at the, one of the next board meetings. Just in case somebody doesn't know, STEAM is a process that intentionally blends multiple content areas in a way that students can understand the meaning of theoretical academics and transform the understanding into applied or practical applications of real-world problem-solving that are creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial. What I found very interesting is they were not advocating spending a lot of money. They started off their program very, very low tech. It's something that we could probably integrate into all of our schools with very low cost. Second training I went to was Saturday, March 23rd, about effective communication, words and body language matter. I found very interesting when I was there was the subtext, Rottweilers and Labradors, and those in between, the art of communication. It was all about different personality styles and how we did find out that in some ways it was beneficial to have all the same communication type, because you were able to, you didn't have to do a lot of verbal communication because you kind of already knew what you guys were doing, but how to really, as a strong group, everybody, we really do need the multiple personality styles, and I think this would probably be beneficial for the board to just do on our own as well. That's it.
Thank you. And one more. In March, I had the opportunity to view using technology to do more with less from the central office to the classroom, building a learning network, professional development, and organizational administration. This was a webinar presented by New Jersey School Boards Association. It included how to use technology to communicate faculty meeting information by recording the presentation so faculty can view the information on their own time and review the information for clarity if necessary. As a result, the meeting time can then be used for collaboration, professional development purposes, professional learning community opportunities as well. And then one more thing, last night I also was able to attend the CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Dr. Shamarian was there, along with Ms. Mezek and Ms. Halberg. And that was a meet and greet in which everyone got to meet the new Director of Special Services, Christina Delapoulou.
Thank you for sharing, all of you. Appreciate that.
Question now, on the CPAC meeting, could you elaborate a little bit more what occurred during that meeting as the liaison?
Sure, it started off as a meet and greet where the Director of Special Services was able to share a little bit about her prior experience and how she's jumped right in and is ready to go, and then had the opportunity to meet one-on-one or in small groups with all of the parents that attended the meeting. And there were at least 10 parents, at least 10 that were in attendance.
Anyone else? If not, I can open to the public if anyone has a comment or concern about any item on the agenda or anything. Wait, let me open.
So moved.
Second. See, we're on automatic. Okay, did you get that, Mrs. DePaulo? There you go.
With other 562 Mount Hill Road, just two questions about the permit. One is the money for the permit in the budget for this year, so we can do it now? And then the second one, not to be snarky, but why did it take so long for us to even file a permit? Saying I was here over the summer, which is almost 6 months or so from now. So those are the two questions I would like to know. To take back to our members.
Yeah, any money involved in the permits is obviously money that we're spending at this time. And we've had discussions with our Director of Facilities throughout the school year in regard to this. I can give you an update exactly on where the permit process is once we talk to him, so that you'd have an idea of what the timeline might be.
Okay, great.
Anyone else? At this, let me have a motion then to close. Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Smith, to close to the public? At this time, the board does need to return to executive for legal as well as personnel issues. We will be coming out, but no decisions will be made. We will close in the public. It might be quite some time until we do come out, but you're welcome to stay and wait for us if you want to. There'll be no further action taken. May I have a motion, please, to go into executive?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Smith, and that would be at 9, we'll call it 9:08. Thank you very much for coming.
Good, how are you doing? Good.